Today I'm here with Emily Diana Ruth. Today we're gonna do a video about creativity and creating things. We both asked you guys to send in some questions, so we've got some questions, but we'll also just be talking about the topic in general. Do you want to give a bit of background info on what you do?
What creative things I do?
Yeah.
Well, I have a YouTube channel. I post on it very rarely nowadays. But I'm a filmmaker and actually, little plug, I just launched a digital series called Cold, which is available on Go90, which I made with Newform Digital, and now I'm just fishing around for the next thing that I'm gonna do.
So basically most of the stuff that I create is on YouTube with like some other visual things around it on social media, and then a lot of what you do is like a mix of basically stuff that's out there in the real world, and then some stuff for online as well, right?
Yeah, well I guess we both kind of have our real jobs. Like we have the job that like pays us, that we have to like put a lot of our work into, and then we have YouTube, which is kind of like a hobby that can also sometimes be financially helpful as well.
I think the first question is potentially my favorite question, and it is from Lucy Moon, and her question is, how do you?
As if she's asking that, she knows how to be creative.
Like, how do you physically go about doing your stuff? Like, what components are part of the stuff that you do?
I think it's a combination of like setting aside the time to do it. Like you have to actually dedicate time in your day to doing that thing. It's also partly just practice, like practicing writing and, you know, brainstorming ideas. It's a lot of research and like finding things that inspire you, like watching movies, like going on Tumblr, looking at like what pictures you're attracted to. And then I guess the other part is just, you know, having that idea. Like sometimes it is a light bulb moment, sometimes it's something like you carefully seek out and you kind of like generate it by like bringing all those components together.
I feel for me there's a lot less of like being inspired and a lot more of just very practically writing down everything that I come across that I think might be interesting. So anything that I think, oh, I'd like to talk about this or I'd like to share this, I just constantly write down. I just showed Emily my like 15-page Google Doc, which I've been keeping for years and years. Just whenever I have an idea I put it in there, and this means I never
Very impressive.
I just never run out of ideas because I know there's stuff in there. Now it doesn't have to be exactly that stuff that I create, but it's a point to go from. And then I think for me my biggest frustration when doing stuff is that I get really obsessed with how it looks, which I guess is more important for film than it is for YouTube, although obviously YouTube is still a visual medium. But I sometimes stop myself from doing stuff because I'm not happy with what it looks like, even though I've already created something. Or like more than I'm upset with the content, I would be upset with like the visual style of it.
Yeah, I mean I definitely struggle with making YouTube videos because I mean it's hard to look at yourself in like a little tiny viewfinder and feel like confident in what you're seeing. Like something super weird that I do a lot is that I will film a video and then when I'm editing it I will actually flip the image.
Really?
Because what I've learned is that I'm so used to seeing myself in a mirror that is who I believe I am. Like that's what I think I look like. So when I see myself recorded and I'm that flipped version,
You feel like that's not you?
Yeah, even though it's what everyone else is used to seeing, I look at that person and I'm like, something's off about that.
Question from Clow, who says, how do you deal with writer's block? So I guess for you it's like sort of fictional writer's block, if that makes sense. You're writing like you have to think of stories, and for me I guess it would be
I think whenever I'm filming a video, a YouTube video, I spend so little time writing it because I know that if I overthink anything to do with a YouTube video, it just will not happen. Like I have to do it as off the cuff, as unscripted as possible, or else it's just not gonna work. But when it is something like fictional, especially when it's a screenplay, which is like a very hard medium to tackle, I get into writer's block all the time because I love the development period. I love the time where you're like listening to the music and like doing research and collecting images and just writing down ideas. But getting those ideas into a screenplay
getting to the actual writing
is really hard, and like it's just like this bridge that I don't know how to cross, and there's like all these obstacles in the way.
Do you have any tips and tricks or how you can like bribe yourself into figuring out a way to keep writing?
Well, one thing is just setting aside the time to do it. Like even if you write terrible stuff, even if you write like one word, you have given yourself like that time to at least try. So that's part of it. Another part is remembering that all first drafts are terrible. Like even books that you love that are amazing, at one point were
Some like
maybe not like
yeah.
not maybe as terrible as my writing, but like terrible to that writer.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I do a lot to do with screenwriting specifically is I will like scrounge the internet and like screenwriting books for a guideline. Like there's a book called Save the Cat, which literally like there's a beat sheet basically, and it's like this is the moment this happens, it's on this page. It's very by the numbers, and it's not the way to write a screenplay, but I find that when I'm struggling to write anything, it's good to follow a very specific
So do you
set of
like
rules.
so do you sort of like set out the line of it, and then it's easier to write within that context than having like a blank sheet?
Yeah, I mean, with screenwriting, like I think more than any other medium that I use, you need to know what's happening way before you even like start writing it. So I often will make like a board, and then I'll have index cards, and each index card is kind of like a scene or a moment or like a specific story event that kind of guides the story forward, and you put it in like 3 different lines, and it kind of corresponds to the 3 acts of the film.
So this is more related to how I did my essay writing, because that's when I did more of the writing, because my videos are I usually will sit down and write down some points, like some questions or some discussion topics, or if it's a review, I'm like, okay, here are the things I want to hit. I know what else I'll probably like say usually, but here are some things that I really want to make sure are in there. And so I know it's not going to be a full script, so it doesn't, it's easy to just make a little list. But for essays and like any sort of long form stuff I've done, for me the best way of doing it is like mulling it over in my head a lot. I feel like if I know I'm going to be writing it, I can't really put stuff on a page, but I sort of be like cycling or in the shower, and like it'll constantly be in the back of my mind, and then by the time I get to put stuff on paper, I've already thought about it so much that I know at least a bit. And then my other thing was just to do like a brain dump. You sit down for 15 minutes and you tell yourself, okay, for the next 15 minutes I'm going to write down everything I know that I want to talk about, maybe. And you just type. And then you have stuff, and then it's just like putting it in a different order, adding stuff onto it. And it means you've done the most difficult thing, which is doing the brain dump. And from there on, it's just editing and adding.
I think that with just when you're just talking about prose, like the way you're explaining things, it is best to find a way to not overthink it, because I remember, and I don't recommend writing essays the night before they're due, but I remember producing some amazing writing at like 3 in the morning at the time being like, what am I doing? And then the next morning I'll wake up and I'll be like, wow, that's actually pretty good, because you don't have time to like doubt yourself.
Overthink it.
You just have to like go for it. But I think when it came to like figuring out what I was gonna say in the essay, I was like an obsessive outliner.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I wrote my thesis, I had just like this manuscript of like, this is what this first chapter is about, like, these are the things I'm gonna reference. I wonder if I could write an essay still. I'm probably not gonna find out.
No, let's not do that anymore. Lauren James, who is an author, asks, what is the best ways to avoid constantly checking social media? I'm horrible at that. I will literally check my phone like every 5 seconds.
I use self-control. No, I use the app.
The app self-control, yeah.
I don't have any self-control. I try really hard to, when I'm working, keep my computer a social media free space. And it's not just social media, like I distract myself with the weirdest websites when I don't want to work. I'm always like apartment shopping for apartments I don't need. But yeah, I use the app self-control. I blacklist anything that I've been known to procrastinate on. And then I make sure that I'm just using my phone for social media, because it's just like I can do a lot less there and I get bored easily.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh.
I have this thing where I sort of try and psych myself up to like go do something. So I'll be like, I will, if I'm by myself obviously, and I really need to like get something done. I don't really use any apps, but I will sort of have my text thing open and I'll just literally say to myself, like, okay, let's go right to like, let's do something. Let's go, okay, I'm gonna do it now.
Is that why your to-do list says, let's do this?
Let's do it, yeah. So like, I'll have to say that, be like, okay, now I stop and now I go. And then my concentration is really bad, so I will probably then for 15 minutes write, but I feel like once you get writing, then it's good. And then afterwards, if you feel your mind drifting, I'm like, okay, I'll take a little break. And then in a bit later, I'll be like, okay, let's go again. So like taking a good moment to be like, okay, this is the moment I'm gonna do it. Then like get all your concentrated like energy out. And then like if your brain wavers again, I feel like it's okay to take a break.
Oh yeah, definitely have to take a break.
Yeah.
Like stand up, make yourself a cup of tea. Speaking of, can you pass me my tea?
Julia asks, what would you say to someone who doesn't have an audience but wants people to see their creations?
I would say learn to create for yourself.
Yeah.
And don't worry about what other people say. I remember somebody said at one point somewhere in the world, you can only make things for one person. That can be you, that can be, I often say like I make things like for my mom. Like that's the only person I really need to please. And of course she likes everything that I make no matter what it is. I think something I've learned a lot recently, especially having sort of a bigger audience on the internet, being exposed to the haters.
The haters.
The more you allow positive comments from your audience to lift you up and make you feel great, the more power you give to the negative comments to bring you down. And I think that you have to make sure that the only person who you're worried about is like yourself, and if you're doing the best job you can do, and if you're happy with like how you've communicated something.
When you start off creating on YouTube, you usually start with 0 audience. That's the way that most people start. And I think that's a good way to start, because it means that the first stuff you do is just for you, because no one is watching. And then when you do get an audience, hopefully you'll still stay in that same mindset. So I think very often for people who like get fame like super quickly, like, or not even fame, but like big audiences, I can imagine that like it's a bigger struggle to figure out like who you're really making stuff for. It's always just like, just put it out there, just put it somewhere where people can find it. Talk to the people that do similar stuff to you, be part of the community, and that's the best you can do, I think.
Yeah, and I think in this digital age, you do have to self-promote a little bit, like make sure your website is super clean and nice.
And I think there's a difference in like, sort of like showing yourself in the best possible light and making yourself searchable versus not going everywhere and like spamming everyone.
Definitely don't spam people.
No. I really like the story of Wes Ball, who directed The Maze Runner, who basically made this short CGI film that he put online, and like based off of that, that's how I guess the producers found him and were like, yeah, this is the vision we have for this film.
Wow.
And The Maze Runner was the first film he directed. He was like, make stuff, put it out there, and see where it takes you.
If you build it, they will come.
So this is from Lori, and she says, how do you balance time for life/school/work commitments with time for creative projects?
Oh man, you can answer this question, because you are like, this is the one reason I think Sana might be a robot.
I have a 9-to-5 job, 5 days a week. And then usually I try and do 2 videos a week. I think for me, it's just, I love making stuff and I love showing it to people and sharing it with people. And so I make it a priority. And also because I enjoy it, it's not super exhausting. Like, so it's not like I just go like, va-voom, a video is here. Like, you still have to put in the time. But you know, I'll put on a film while I do some editing, and I sit on my bed while I do it, and I just really feel like the benefits I get out of it and how much I enjoy it makes it feel like it's not a chore. Because if it was a chore, I wouldn't be doing it. I feel like grabbing the hours that you have, so making it easy for yourself to do work in little chunks. So sometimes I come home and I edit for 15 minutes, and then I stop, and that's fine. So just doing all the little bits you can for me is quite helpful.
Yeah, I think that the creative stuff has to be your hobby and potentially one of your only hobbies. Like, I've definitely had full-time jobs where I've basically come home and on the weekend, like, that's my time to create. Like, that's what I do. I would do that instead of, like, going out or, you know, watching a movie or doing whatever. I would be working on my own stuff. Like, it had to be fun for me to do that stuff.
The way that I found, I think, to cheat a little bit is that I combine going out and hanging out with friends with my hobby. So I'll go hang out with a friend, but we'll both bring our laptop and work on stuff while we like watch something on TV.
Or you film a collab video with a friend.
Exactly. Or if I go out for the day, I'm like, oh, actually, this would make a really fun video, so I'll bring my camera. So it's not like I don't have time to do anything else, but I just find ways to sort of make them all work together.
Smart. You may notice a tiny change in the frame. That's my fault. I kicked the tripod.
She kicked the camera.
I'm like a human pretzel up here.
Emily has a question of her own.
Ooh. I'll just tell you where this question is coming from.
Yes.
Recently I put up a video, and I hadn't put up a YouTube video in a very long time because I've been working on Cold series for basically a year, and they didn't like that I put up a video asking my audience to watch this series when I had basically neglected my YouTube audience for a year. And that really scared me because my show is free. Like, it's only available in the US. It's still free for my audience. I still made something for, you know, the people of the internet.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's this sense of obligation a lot of audiences expect from a creator, when realistically, if you are watching a channel of a person who is, you know, doing that full time and wants to grow and change, like there are going to be differences in
Yeah.
where that stuff ends up. Like, you know, I have to make a living. It costs me money to put videos on my YouTube channel. Is there a version of your future career that would take you away from your YouTube channel?
I don't think so. I don't think so altogether, but I think maybe if there is something where there is a thing that I talk about on this channel, or a kind of content that I make on this channel that has an opportunity to be taken to be something really big or something really exciting that I can't sort of do double.
Right, yeah.
Then maybe something was slightly split out. But I think I will always be on YouTube. But I really love having the full control. I like being the creator, presenter, editor, like all of that.
But what if you could be the executive producer, creator, director, and star of your own, like, talk show?
On TV.
On TV.
But that's, I think the people that are interested in watching what I'm doing aren't watching TV.
It's true.
And that's why I really love not having this as a full-time job, because it allows me to make decisions based on what I want to do and not based on what will pay my rent. Okay, so final question is from Helen. She says, how do you keep your audience in mind during creativity without uninspiring yourself by constant editing? How do you get the balance between thinking about the people that are going to watch it but not overthinking that part?
Honestly, I try not to think about my audience at all. I really, and it's not like a, oh, I don't care what you think kind of thing. I think that is the best way to ensure that I am making
something that's true to you.
And then I think that's in turn what makes people like watching it. But also it's just it's way too much pressure for me, especially on my own channel, my own space, to have to edit myself. Like, I'm a filmmaker, like I am going to be in many situations in my life where I have to edit what I'm doing because of a studio, because of a client, because of
you already have so many parties to think about.
Yeah, that I don't ever want to have to do that for my own stuff, because the cool thing about YouTube is that you get to create the most pure version of what you want to make. It's like a calling card. It's like what you are and what you want to give to the world.
On YouTube you can see very well what does well and what doesn't. Like, you can have two videos next to each other and one will have 20,000 views and one will have 10,000 views. You know which will have done better. You know which one people liked more.
Yeah.
Not just views wise, but also if you get lots of comments about it, etc. And there's certain things that I do that I know aren't gonna get crazy views because in the past I've done similar things and they've done alright, but like not that well. But I just love doing them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll go, I just really want to make this video because it'll be such a nice memory. It's especially like travel videos.
Yeah.
I want to do them and I would make them just if I, even if I wasn't going to post them online. So I just go ahead and put it out.
Yeah.
And then I think sometimes also there is the sort of, you know, what does really well and what do people like to see. It will make me sort of consider, oh, maybe I should do some more of that because obviously people liked it. But I think, again, that is a logical thing. If you see that something does well and it's something you enjoy doing, then that is, you know, the next logical step.
So that was a lot of stuff.
I hope you guys enjoyed this chat about making stuff, basically. I'm really excited to have Emily back on my channel. It's so nice. It's not like we haven't seen each other for like 2 years, but final plug, if you want to go watch Cold, we'll put links in the description. If you're not in the US, you can watch the first episode on YouTube. If you are in the US, where should people go?
Go90.com.
Go90.com. It's great. I can highly recommend it. Go check out Emily's channel. She is doing like a how many week series about...
I think there's going to be about 7 behind the scenes videos.
Lots of videos about how she created Cold. So if you're interested in learning about the creative process, then that is the place to be. Thanks for being on my channel.
No worries.
If you guys have more questions, leave them in the comments. We will both be there and like we can answer some questions. If you have any tips, also please do leave them.
Yeah, we're not experts. Please help us. Please.
Alright.
Doei! Okay.